Hey guys, it feels a little weird to be making a video now because I'm kind of taking a break, but I'm really excited to be making this video for you guys. So we're going to start with just my sketchbook, and I'm actually going to be starting by warming up. Usually with videos where I'm going to be painting something, I jump right into the painting because I've already done my warming up and my sketching, but I thought it could be fun to at least this time share that with you guys because I'm hoping the painting itself will go relatively quickly. We'll see what happens. So this sketchbook, this is one I made, by the way, and all of these stickers are from artists who I have purchased stickers from, or they were gifts. So I'll go ahead and list all of the artists in the wherever that would be. The paper itself is just canted mixed media paper, and I just wanted a handmade sketchbook that was smaller to use it out of, so that's what I have here. I do have some plans for what I want to paint today. Pretty simple, pretty standard to me, but I need some time to warm up and start thinking about shapes and things. So you guys are going to see a little bit of the sketching process while I think. What's ahead? Are we surprised? Not really. So when I'm sketching, I try to keep my my lines pretty loose and fluid and expressive. I feel like losing that at this stage kind of guarantees that it won't come back, so I'm just trying to keep that even now from the beginning. And that's one other thing it's probably my favorite thing about working with pencils, is it doesn't take very many lines or very much work to get to something that can feel more rendered, you know? Like I can just scribble and get there, you know? I think that's really valuable. And eyes are like my favorite place to scribble because you can do so much with so little. I will be answering questions, but probably not a ton actually during this initial sketching phase because it is a little bit more difficult for me to talk while I'm sketching. Painting is a little bit easier, but sketching is a little bit more difficult. So yeah, I'm taking a break, and it's been all right so far. It's been good. I haven't been super productive, to be honest. I've had some really lazy days where I just spend a lot of time watching Doctor Who, which is my favorite TV show, or I haven't even done a ton of painting, which is really what this break is for me to reconnect with actually creating art. So that's important. And I'm getting there, and it's only been 1 week now since my last video went up, so I've got time. To be honest, I didn't even set a time limit for this break. I just said I'm taking a break, and I'm doing that. So yeah, taking a break. I'm hoping that it'll feel like a break soon, because it's not like things I've done in the past, or at least what I did in February, where I wasn't working at all for a little while. I'm still running my shop and updating Patreon for you guys, and you know, there's still things to be done. It's just not YouTube videos. So it's not a full break, but I just needed some more time for creating art and pumping out that creativity, you know what I mean? Like reconnecting with that and the kind of art that I want to make. So hopefully I'll feel like I'm there again soon. So this little scribble, we've been recording for like 5 minutes. Haven't been sketching that entire time, but there's a face here already, and I actually really like it, so that's nice. I'm just trying to think about expressive lines. And then reinforcing contrast to draw in an area of focus, which in this case is probably going to be like the eyes here. So making that darker area as dark as I want it to be, so that it stands out a bit. I like that. And I do have a reference up here, kind of. I'm not really following, but it's good to look at faces to kind of remember the structure, you know? I spent a lot of time when I was a younger artist beating myself up for not drawing more than just faces, but now I'm at the point where I'm just like, I want to do what I'm passionate about and what actually excites me to create, and that oftentimes I end up here, you know, I end up with this specific subject matter, and I want that to be okay, you know? Because of course when you're learning the fundamentals and you're first getting started, you want to explore and find what kind of makes your creativity sing, you know, what really gets you excited to create. But I think once you've found that, it's good. I mean, you can always fall back on creating new things when you're feeling stuck or when you're not sure what to do next. But when I'm trying to connect specifically with what I love, I usually fall back on things like this. Okay, so there's that. And now I need to think about what I actually want to paint. I'm using a Blackwing pencil. This is the softer one, and they lose their point really quickly because they're so soft. I'm actually going to attempt switching to, so you'll see the difference a lot. This is a much harder pencil. This is oh goodness, who makes this? I don't know. It's a watercolor pencil, actually. So I'm going to sketch a little bit with this, and this sketch was pretty loose, but the ideas that I have for a piece, for sketching a piece, are actually even looser for like my painting for today. So I was thinking about going really, really scribbly, and just getting the features in like that. Do you know what I mean? Like eyes and a nose, and just kind of keeping things a bit angular but still a bit scratchy. Just seeing how it goes. It is difficult for me when I don't start with the shape of the head to keep the proportions accurate. So if I do the features first and then try to put in the shape of the head, I generally have a harder time. Yeah, and I can tell that this, like, it feels like the head, the eyes are maybe too big, but still kind of like that shape. So yeah, I kind of have been answering slowly that first question that Sheila had asked. Thank you, by the way. Of how I'm doing. So I'm doing pretty good. I'm not super feeling like I'm taking a break yet, you know? It takes a while for that mentality to set in and for me to shut off the part of my brain that keeps telling me that I should be working, you know? So it's kind of difficult to get there, but I'm working on it, so. yeah, so I'm doing pretty good. It's just hard to get to that mentality of going like, I'm not working, I need to relax and learn and stuff. I really want to connect with making art, and I don't know, just getting to a place where I'm happy with what I'm making again. It's been a few months since I've been just super thrilled with creating and that entire process. All right. Oh boy. Okay, I think I'm ready to maybe switch to watercolor paper, and then once we get into the painting, I'll be able to answer some more questions. So for the most part during this painting, I'm going to be talking about how I paint loosely, and then we'll also answer Justin's question about organizing colors, like when you have, you know, a bunch of stuff from different brands. I'm assuming that's what Justin meant, and you're trying to just have like a master binder for all of your colors so you kind of know what everything is and how it compares to everything else. And maybe we'll just talk about that first before we get started. Justin had talked about Denise from In Liquid Color, her binder setup, which is amazing. I think that's an amazing way to do it. Organizing like pigments and colors into a way that you can go, okay, what yellows do I have? What reds do I have? I haven't done anything like that myself, that organizational system, because I prefer to, when I'm trying to choose what colors I want to use, I prefer to go by brand. So like I knew I wanted to use my White Nights paints today, so that's what I'm doing. And but I think that Denise's organizational process is fantastic with her plans of, you know, knowing what the pigments are, being able to see the pigment and the transparency, being able to see those things right away. I think that that's fantastic and amazing, and seems like a really good structure. If I was going to make a master binder, I would probably do something similar. I like the binder because you're able to flip through it, you know? It's in that kind of format where you can just look through everything. I like that a lot. This is going to be a pretty rambly video because I obviously I'm painting while I'm talking. So, yeah, okay, woo-wee. I'm going to be talking about mostly how I loosen up to paint, and it does start from the sketch phase, you know what I mean? You have to start with a loose but structured sketch, because if you have everything determined in your sketch about where things are going to go, then you can just play around with how you fill in those blanks, you know? So I did spend quite a bit of time on the sketch, and I'm still not completely happy with the structure of this face. But it's alright. This is just, you know, every painting is an opportunity to learn. So that's what I'm kind of going with, and reminding myself that more than anything, I just want to learn and try new things and find a place that I'm comfortable creating and that I want to come back to, you know what I mean? So with looseness, I try to start, you know, as you can see, I started with like a purplish gray color, very, very desaturated. It was a mix of cadmium red light and cerulean blue. So two colors, when mixed together, that will create a very desaturated sort of purple. And I start by just kind of loosely laying in areas and then softening them out with water in some areas. I like to leave some edges because that's kind of the beauty of watercolor, that you can do that. And you definitely have to make the decision for looseness right away. Another really important thing is to kind of jump around the piece. So if you start focusing in one area too quickly, like if I was focusing on, okay, I'm going to paint this one eye, then I would get too focused on the details right away, you know, and I would work on that one eye until it was done. And the result is that it would end up being much tighter. And that's usually when things tighten up for me, is when I start to focus on one area a bit too much. So, yeah, so moving around the entire face is very important for keeping things loose. Also, so that I don't feel out of control with my colors, I will keep my color palette pretty limited. So I wanted something pretty desaturated and a bit cloudy almost. So I really wanted to get some cerulean blue in there. I was actually really inspired. Last night I watched Tori Ann, who's Juicy Ink on YouTube. I watched her newest video and she talked about mixing with cerulean blue, and I kind of remembered how much I love that, how much I love mixing with the color. So I was really excited to get out a set that had that color in it. I don't think that the White Night Cerulean Blue is the best example of the color because it's pretty, has pretty low saturation, low tinting strength, which is pretty standard of cerulean blue, but you kind of need a lot of it to get anywhere, which is okay. But I also have to be careful when you want to work loosely. You have to be careful about using a color pure. So like this is almost pure cerulean blue right now, and I have to be careful about using it just by itself, like not mixed, because it's gonna stand out with a higher level of saturation just on its own, which can make the looseness a little difficult if I'm not being careful to keep things cohesive. So right now I'm working in some areas of darkness, and I'm thinking about where the light's coming from and what that's going to mean for the piece, and what areas are going to be lighter, what areas are going to be darker. And if I think in terms of value, the individual brush strokes can be pretty loose, which is very nice. And I also like to start with the biggest brush possible. Starting with a larger brush helps to keep you from honing in on the details too quickly, so that's important too. And I also kind of have to, you do have to like dispel some fear, you know what I mean? Like that, a fear of making a mistake or messing up and going like, well, that's not to say that you won't make a mistake, but you'll never achieve those adventurous strokes if you don't at least try to be adventurous, you know? I've said this before, but I'm actually really grateful right now for having the camera on, because it's a small screen that I can look at to kind of gauge the values at a glance. Like it's a way that I can squint at my painting almost and look at a smaller version of it to see how it's going and what it's looking like. I really like this dusty color that the cerulean blue makes when it's mixed. That's very nice. I don't have a super clear idea of what I want to communicate here with this piece, which makes things a little bit difficult. Like where I want the focus to be, where I want there to be the most contrast, you know, and without knowing that, it makes it difficult, you know, knowing how to proceed and what to do next. It's hard. That's another way that I'll get to, that I'll lose my looseness actually, is not having an idea of where to focus. Because keeping a piece loose is about allowing for a mess in all the places except for where you want the focal point to be. So if I want the focal point of this piece to be the eyes, then I have to allow everything else to be loose, or you're not going to have a place to look. Your eyes won't have a place to settle, to go, this is the place where my eyes are supposed to catch, you know what I mean? So if I make everything too detailed, I'll lose that. I'll lose my focal point. I like the idea of, also lately I've been really interested in the idea of eyes being different from one another. So taking this one eye and allowing it to be much darker than the other one, letting this one be softer and a bit redder. I'm probably going to do that, play with that idea a bit. So I have a dark value here that I'm kind of laying in. I need to be selective about where I'm putting it and keep in mind my overall, like I said, those value goals, where I want the focus to be. It's a really interesting thing, and I've heard artists talk about this in terms of abstract art too, where you think that the looseness is random, but it almost can't be random and remain loose, you know? If you just start splattering things around, or at least for me, if I just start splattering things around, I'll tinker with it too much and then I'll lose my looseness. So I need to kind of have a plan. I need to have a goal, or whatever looseness I put down will disappear. I will lose it. So I do have to have a goal in mind, or even just a message to communicate, you know? And if I have that goal or have that message, something I want to say, then I can do that expressively, you know? I hope some of this makes sense and is not just, it doesn't just feel like I'm just saying words, because that's how it feels to me sometimes, you know? So there will be details in some small spaces in this painting, but I want them to only exist where I want there to be focus, you know? And that's something that I've only really been allowing myself to really experiment with and explore recently. I had in the past been really big on overdoing those focus areas, you know? Too many darkest darks and too many highlights, you know? So there wasn't enough of a focus. I like these colors a lot. They're very dusty and desaturated. It's very soft. And usually what happens is I lose my softness. Like I get to a point where I go, oh, I need more contrast or I need more saturation. And the result is that I lose the softness that was there in the earlier stages, you know? So I'm going to do my best not to overwork it this time, you know? I'm still using the largest brush that I have out in an attempt to keep myself from jumping into details. And then I want the details phase could technically be pretty short, you know? If most of my work is in defining the looseness and keeping that there, then I might not need to spend a lot of time on the details, you know? So I'm introducing yellow for the first time right now. I haven't used any yellow. It's just been the blue and the cerulean blue and that cadmium red light. So this is the first pop of warmer color. And I've found that getting too primary, like having a red, yellow, and a blue and overusing them is a very quick way to lose like a soft, eerie color palette, you know? It's too much yellow, so I have to be careful of that. But I do want to insert it in some areas where I want more of a glow, you know, but not everywhere. There we go. And I want to think about where I want to maintain my white values also, where I want to not cover up the white of the page, you know, because I'm blending out some things, but I also want to leave some hard watercolor edges, you know. I think that's really important. So I'm feeling at this point that I'm not going to be able to properly gauge my values until I get a darker value in, maybe even my darkest value. So I'm not going to know where this stuff sits, you know, until I get something darker in, and that's how I'll know what I need to do next. For which I need this to be completely dry, or at least I want it to be a bit more dry. So I'm gonna use my old heat tool that's starting to melt here. One thing I've been doing lately that it at least feels really nice for me is I've been reading. So like actually physically reading a book. So I'm gonna zoom this in just a little bit so we can look at some of these details. I started reading The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and I've been wanting to read it for a very, very long time, and just, I don't know, I just never did. I picked it up when I used to work at a library. I saw it on the shelf and I wanted to read it, and then I put it back and forgot about it for a long time. So I'm hoping that soon, I mean, I have it in my home, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to really dive into it soon. So I'm working on my deepest color right now. I want that to be a desaturated purplish color, which it's so funny for someone who, I say I don't like purple, it's really just super vibrant purples that I don't like very much. So I'm trying to get something cooler but still pretty desaturated. And I cut this paper to size, but I did save some paper scraps so I can use those to swatch. So that's a bit too purple still. I'm gonna add a little more red. Just gonna seriously just keep changing it. That's pretty close. I'm actually going to add a touch of this indigo to deepen the color. We might be able to use a little bit of that, but that's actually a little too deep. And of course the cadmium red light is so strong that these two colors will fight with each other a lot. The cadmium red light and the indigo in this set. They're both so strong. I want this to have some like red undertones. There's so many colors mixed in here right now. I'm actually just going to add a little bit of purple to this. See what happens. If we just start with a purple base, because I do want kind of purpley. Isn't it crazy, like how much time I'm spending, how many different versions I'm getting for like one little color? But I know that, because I'm so picky about purples, I know that getting this one color wrong could just kind of wreck everything for me. Let's start with that, and then we can adjust it as we go. Alright. Anyway, yeah, I started reading a book. It's Name of the Wind is a fantasy trilogy. Or I mean, it's the first book in a trilogy. And I haven't read it before. I just have the first book here right now, and I know the third book in the trilogy isn't out yet. But, yeah, I'm excited. So there's a little bit of darkness. And I already know I want to pop in something warmer under here, because I'm going to want to maintain some of that. And now this eye, I don't want actually to have hardly any of this dark color. I want the depth of this eye to be warmer, much warmer, almost like it's the sun is shining, like when the sun shines through skin, you know, that sort of warmth. You know, if one of these eyes was going to be the focus, I want to be this one. It's going to be more defined. This other one's going to be much less defined. One thing I like that is happening here, if I can just strike the right balance. Sometimes you have an idea, and then as you start to execute it, it actually comes together in a way that's better than what you have in your mind, you know? Like, I can't fully visualize this concept, this idea, this finished painting, but as I start to pull it together, it becomes something even more and better than what I had in my head, which I love. That's kind of what I cling to with painting. Like, that's what I need. So when I'm feeling like my skills aren't up to the job, that's difficult, you know. I'm gonna take some of the super warm, you know, sunlight, glowy shadow color and pop it in the nostril. And, you know, let that nose glow a bit. That'll be good. I feel like I have gone through a lot of changes in the type of art I create, especially over like the past year, which I know it's standard for artists to grow and change. And I wonder if I'll ever get to a point where I've found the way that I like to create art, you know? Like, I wonder if I'll even ever get there. I don't know. It'd be nice, I think. I don't know. I like exploring and trying new things, though. Thanks to anyone who watches this video. It means a lot to me to get to share this stuff with you guys. I mean, it really does, to have just to even have the avenue or the place of interest where people want to see this, you know. I'm intentionally kind of spreading this red out to just make the lip look maybe a bit dirty or a bit almost bloodied, I guess. But I don't know. I'm pretty squeamish when it comes to blood in art. It's not something I'm a huge fan of. But I like to add that bit of eeriness, you know. Or almost like a smudged lipstick too, you know, that sort of look. Good. This is a weird balancing act where we're at right now, because I have to decide how much more I want to do and when I'm happy with where the piece is at, you know, like when I would say it's done. Everything still feels very light to me currently, which is fine, because I want, in the end, you don't need everything to be dark or for there to be values all over the place for the piece to be done. You just need to have successfully communicated your message, you know? You just need to have reached the point where you're going, now it says what I wanted it to say, you know? And things can be really light still for it to be there, because if I want to keep that sort of misty, ghosty, ethereal feeling, I have to be very careful about how much detail I add, because I can crush it, you know, I can crush it really easily. I think we'll do some loose splatters along this edge, and then it's difficult to decide like what color that should be, you know. But yeah, just to kind of define this edge, blur the pencil lines, and add some color to this outer area. Should be using a bigger brush. I had switched to something smaller, but now I wish I had the bigger one back. I really like the idea of emphasizing the white of the face along this edge, so I'm just gonna play with that a bit more. One thing I like is when shadows blend too, so pulling together the dark value of the background with the shadow under the head, you know, between the head and the neck. Play with that a bit. I do have to be careful about sculpting out the structure here. I don't want to change too much of the structure. Like, I can tell I've narrowed out this neck a little bit just by doing what I've done. And I can easily make it look like it doesn't belong. So I have to be careful. I am really loving this though. So I'm at the point where I do have to think about finishing touches already. You know, I have to think about what's stopping this piece from being done and what would be too much. I shouldn't do this while this is completely wet. Hold on. Alright, so I've got a pretty desaturated gray color here. It's like just gray. And I want to do some splattery things. But I have to be careful because I actually don't really want splatters on the face. And I don't just want splatters too. I want some blended out edges. There we go. If I dot in just a wet brush into this area, I can create some more texture in here. So it's not just a flat wash. I think I do want something on this upper edge here, the upper edge of the head, because it kind of is just white into white right now with some pencil lines. And what I want is actually something super subtle. So I'm gonna mix like a light peachy tone, and I'm actually gonna, oh, that's dangerous. Okay. Super light, and then soften it out a ton. Like, I want it to almost barely be there. Yeah. I don't know if I like that. But it's there now. Okay. Alright, I think the most important thing for me to do now is to pick a focus point, like I've been saying like this whole time. Pick a point where I want the eye to be drawn and finish it. So that's going to be darker values and high saturation is how that's going to happen. So we'll do a little bit more in the nose and this corner of the mouth. Yeah, I like that. That's good. And then maybe a little bit under here. Going that way, like that. And this color actually isn't warm enough to create that real sunlight effect that I wanted. It needs more yellow. But I've broken this upper edge. Alright, that might be alright. And then maybe a bit of warmth down here. I do have to be very careful at this stage because this is now the detail stage, you know, where I can add too many details, too much of something, and ruin what I've put down. Like, that's way too dark. So this is where I get delicate, you know. This is where I fiddle and fidget and change and undo like almost every stroke I put down, you know. Because now we're drawing near to our focus point. And it's gentle. It's very gentle, you know, drawing the eye to one spot. So this eye is slowly starting to pop out. And one thing I think is really interesting is that I can talk about this with you guys like I know what I'm doing and how I'm getting to where I'm going. But at the same time, like, I kind of don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I've never painted this painting before, you know? What I'm doing is still kind of new to me. My brain wants there to be more areas of color. You know what I mean? Like, just have more color in more places. But at the same time, I want to let this painting be what it is and not overwhelm it and ruin the softness. I'm going to drop in a little bit more of a shadow for the crease of the eyelid. Yeah. I love getting to a point where looking at a piece of art can say more about it than talking about it, you know? And I feel like I'm getting there with this. Like, it does something looking at it that my entire process of explaining throughout this video can't really express. And I think that's fantastic. We are just about there. We're so close. I just have to be careful not to overdo it at this point. You know what I think this might need is a tiny bit more darkness and then a highlight, which I might get my gouache out for that. Like just a pop of white, because I don't think I realize how much I've lost the white of the page in the eye. So the area of focus should be the place with the greatest contrast. So having your darkest darks and your whitest whites in the same area can be really great for drawing the eye. So yeah, greatest contrast and greatest saturation is going to create a focus point. And then lessening the contrast, lessening the saturation everywhere else allows the eye to focus more on where you want it to. So I'll do a little bit more around this eye, more color, more contrast, because that's going to be our focal point. All right. I think I need just a touch of a dark value like this. And then we can get our highlight in, and then maybe we'll be done. Like that. Yep. And then I'm going to take something just a little bit to define the bottom edge of this nose. Kind of pop that edge out. And if I leave this edge hard, it seems like a shadow. If I soften it out, I'll lose that shadow effect. So I'm gonna leave it hard. Yep, and maybe pop a tiny bit more right under here to let that nose really pop out. Yep. Okay. And I think I do need something. Here. Something splattery up here. It's so hard to control the splatters, obviously. All right, we'll back up a little bit for the highlight. I think it's just going to be one. And I've got my white gouache here. Just white gouache. I might add a tiny bit of water so it's not super thick. I have to think about where I want to put that too, the highlight. I think I'm actually going to put it, you want contrast, so I'll probably put it close to the darker value in the eye up high as opposed to down lower in the lighter area. It won't show as much. So, got some paint in the cap. We're just going to use that. This feels like such a crucial moment, like very dramatic. So I'll add a tiny bit of water to that, but you want to keep it pretty thick so that it doesn't dry lighter. So pretty thick paint on the tip of my brush. I don't want to make it too big, but I want it to be there. Oh, that's nice. I think I like that a lot. And then I'm actually going to add some to this lower area and then blend it out. So I put some white gouache down here that I'm going to just kind of blend at to soften. I don't know how much of a difference that makes, but there it is. And it's hard for me to shake the desire to add even more contrast to the eye, you know? Make the areas around that white even darker. But I do have to be careful of overdoing it at this point. But yeah, it's loose, but it's also very deliberate decisions, you know? Like that's what makes the looseness actually work. Just being intentional and deliberate. And that just takes time and experimentation. Like I could have pushed this too far, or I could have not pushed it enough. Maybe I did, I don't know. But if I didn't just jump in and give myself the time and space to try it, I never would have even gotten close, you know? And I'm happy with this. I feel like it's the kind of piece that makes you feel like you could do so many different variations, you know? You could choose to focus on something different. You could draw the focus somewhere else just slightly, even with something very similar, and that's what makes me excited to keep painting. And I think that that's the heart of it, you know? I'm gonna add a splash of red over here for the ear, because I want to. Even though the ear's not there, I just want to kind of give the impression that there's red. Ooh, see, now I really like that. I have to be careful. This is where I can get in trouble. But I want to push the saturation a little bit more. Yep. I'm glad I did that, but I should stop. Except, see, here we go. I want to put some of that red shadowy effect of the light shining down up here. Gentle. So hard edge up at the top and soft edge at the bottom. Alright, I've got to let that be pretty much it. And then maybe just mirror that on this side a little bit more. Push. Yeah, okay, gentle pushes, you know? Okay. I should stop. Okay. I gotta let that be it. I really like how this reads from, like, you know, looking at it through my camera. I think that's good. This might be a little too dark now. I can lift up some of the stuff I just put down. But still, the focal point is quite clearly the eye, and then there's other areas of some contrast, like around the nose and the mouth, that kind of give you things to look at, like interest. So I'm happy with this, and I think I need to stop. Let me dry it, and then we can peel the tape together. All right, I believe the piece is dry now. So okay, I just have to make sure. Okay. Time to peel the tape. So the best way to peel the tape for me is to actually just heat the tape, because then it peels much easier. So heat that up and then peel it straight back against itself. So come on, my tape is warming. Why is this so hard? Oh, I'm pulling 2 layers. Oops. There's like old tape underneath that I actually don't want to peel. Oh no. Okay. All right. That'll be the most satisfying edge for sure. That was the edge that had the most paint on it anyway, so. And there we go. One very finished little painting. I'm super happy. This painting didn't take a super long time to make. It was definitely less than an hour, I think. I'm gonna go edit the video and find out. But I'm really happy with it, and I will probably use this one as the high-res digital download thing for this month too. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Real quick, I just want to let you guys know the colors I used for this piece. So the primary colors I used were cadmium red light, cerulean blue, and then my yellow was usually Naples yellow. So these are the primary colors that I used for this piece, but there was also a bit of Quin Gold in there to get that really rich warmth, and a tiny bit of this indigo Payne's Gray color. So those are what I used, and also a little bit of some of these cooler reds to shift the purple values a little bit. It looks so light and like there's, you know, so little going on, but there's so many different variations in color and in hue, so let's just take a quick look. And there it is. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will talk to you all. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.